starting in France, actually. Over on Libération's front page, we've got Egypt, the lost spring. Of course, Egypt goes to the polls today, which is such a momentous event that it's knocked all the French news off the French front pages. Now, why the lost spring, though? What's lost about it? Well, Libération explains in its paper that the most likely candidates to win are either Abdel Foutou, the moderate Islamist candidate who's been put up by the Muslim Brotherhood after their original candidate got disqualified, or alternatively, Emma Moussa, who was once, of course, also a minister in the Mubarak regime and then led the Arab League for some time. Now, why are these lost options? Well, if you're the revolutionaries, if you're the young people who took to the streets, who campaigned to push Mubarak out, who did really more than anything to bring Egypt to this point where it's having its first democratic elections in years, then none of these candidates are really a good option. It's either people who are deeply linked to the previous Mubarak regime and so are conservative in the sense of having those connections and being linked to the repressive military and police regime that's been in place for the last year and a bit, or alternatively it's Muslim candidates that the revolutionaries that the paper has been speaking to are very worried would impose quite tough Islamist laws. So they're really left between a rock and a hard place without any options to vote for that particularly inspire the young people that the paper has been talking to. They say that for groups like secularists or Coptic Christians, there isn't really any good option. They're left trying to decide whether they should choose between people who are linked to those military and pro-Mubarak groups that repressed them and beat them up in some cases and arrested them for protesting in the street, or if they should vote for Islamist candidates who want to impose policies that the revolutionaries don't support at all. So it's a tough choice.
OK, well, we've got some more politics for you now, a little bit closer to home for us here in Paris. So Francois Hollande is going to meet his European counterparts later today. More talk, of course, on the future of the euro, also making the headlines.
Yes, well, according to Le Figaro, the right-wing paper, which of course is in no way a fan of President Hollande, they've got the Franco-German motor has broken down as a headline this morning. Now, they, according to their editorial, believe that François Hollande is trying to install a false division between him and Angela Merkel. They say he's trying to keep the left of his own party, Jean-Luc Mélenchon, of course, the leftist candidate for the presidency, and the left of the Socialist Party happy by telling them that he's going to go to this European meeting of the 27 leaders later today and tell Angela Merkel that we must impose a growth agenda instead of austerity. But according to Le Figaro, it's already been won, that argument, across Europe. The leaders have agreed that what we need is growth, and so his trying to position himself as opposed to Angela Merkel is a bit excessive.
And the new French cabinet is also meeting today.
Yes, but who does what in the new government? That's what Le Parisien is asking today. Well, that's what Le Parisien's asking. Is their second Conseil des Ministres, their second cabinet meeting for the new government. They're all on the front page here. But Le Parisien says that many of the ministers themselves are a little bit confused about what exactly they're meant to be doing. Of course, we've got some confusingly named new ministries, like productive redressment, which is what Arnaud Montebourg, the leftist, is in charge of. He at least seems to have worked out what he's going to do. He spent the last week or so contacting leaders of industry and so on to try and explain to them how he sees his role as trying to stop outsourcing, trying to restore jobs back here in France, trying to stop major companies from laying people off. But the Parisien does have a little bit of a joke at the expense of some of the rather more confused-seeming new young ministers. Of course, most of the ministers in this government have never served in a cabinet before. And if you look at that cartoon there, we've got François Hollande trying to decide what tie he should wear, asking two ministers, what tie should I wear? Is this a job for the Minister of Ties? And one of the ministers speaking say, no, it's the job of the dress code minister. So...
Passing the buck.
Passing the buck, exactly. Now, according at least to Le Parisien, there are too many new ministries, too many inexperienced ministers who aren't entirely sure what their role is supposed to be. And so they're in this kind of blurred interim zone where they don't quite know what they're meant to be doing or what role they're meant to be playing. So we'll wait and see how they cope with running the country.
I'm sure they'll get round to it at some point. The minister, our own minister, in fact, for analysing newspapers, Elena Casas, thank you very much here on France 24. Time for the headlines then. Voting for the first time ever to pick their president.